We are in Adobe After Effects. We will create a new composition and we will call this composition as main animation. As always, width I'll choose 1920, but this time we are going to create looping animations, so we will create this looping animation in square format so you can upload this animation on Instagram or anywhere else. So for that, what we will do, we will do 1080 and height 1080. Frame rate I'll choose 30, and duration we don't need much more duration, so I'll choose 10 seconds only, and background color is white, and simply hit OK to create this composition. Then because we are going to create looping animations, so we have to be very accurate about our positions and etc. So I'll hit Ctrl R on my keyboard to get this grid, because we need to calculate the initial frame and last frame as same. And then I'll go to hit this title sections like that. Now with the help of bouncing ball animation, we will create this looping animation. So first thing we will do, we will create one ellipse, and I don't want any stroke over here. If you want, then you can choose that also, but I don't need that. And in fill color, I'll gonna choose this blue color like that and hit OK. And with the help of shift, I'm gonna create one ellipse. I'll select this, press Ctrl Alt Home, go to the align tab, align it horizontally and then align it vertically like that. Then I'll select this ellipse, hit enter, and let's call this as ball and hit OK. And this is because this is blue color, I'm gonna choose this blue color only. We don't need to change any color over here. Then we will choose this rectangle, and I'll create one rectangle like that. If you see, this rectangle is that much long. Select this rectangle, press Ctrl Alt Home to align that anchor point to the center. Let's make it fit. Align it horizontally and then align it vertically first. Press S for scaling option, unlink this option, and you can increase the size of it like that. And you can increase this size also like this. Then I'll move this over here like so. Then we will go to add menu and we will use our option called repeater. So whenever we are going to apply repeater, as you know, it will repeat this. Then we will go to the transform repeater, and as you can see, we have this position property over here. On y-axis I'll move this thing over here, and on x-axis I'll move it something like, let's say 95 maybe. Yeah, this looks good. And I'm gonna increase the copies up to 20 like that. Select this rectangle and I'll move this something like that. Then press, as you know, we have pressed Ctrl R to open this grid, and we will create one grid over here. I'll zoom in a little bit and move this over here. Make sure that you are going to something like that. If you want to remove this title selection, you can. Make sure that this line touches this portion and this thing over here like that. I'll use fit. Yep, this looks good to me. Now I'll select this, what we call as ball, and select this shape layer and change the color of this. I'll use pink. Hit enter and I'll call it as stair like that. Select this ball and I'll move this ball over here. Zoom in a little bit and make sure that it touches the ground like that. Now select this, press Y on keyboard and move this anchor point over here with the help of Control. Snap this anchor point over here. If you want to increase the scale, you're free to do that. I'm gonna increase it a little bit like that. Yep, this looks good to me. Now I'll select my selection tool. I have this, what we call grid, and I'll again add one grid, and this time I'll make sure that it will touch the edge of this ball like that. Now we will create one bouncing animation, and I want it bounce from here to here. So to make that, what we'll do, we will hit P for position, and if you have seen the bouncing ball animation, you have know that we have to right click on it and we need to choose separate dimensions. So I'll create one keyframe over here and one keyframe over here, like that, and go to around one frame and move this thing over here and move this thing on y-axis. It should be here, like that. So as you can see, I will touch this, and in middle of this I want this to be bouncy, so at this point I'll increase the Y position, like that. Now select the Y position keyframes and hit F9 to the graph editor. As you can see, we will get something like this. Now we have to adjust the graph editor. I'll select the Y keyframes, I'll hit F9, then I'll go to the graph editor and I'll select this handle and I'll move this over here, select this handle and move this over here. Then I'll move this handle over here and I'll move this handle over here, like that. As you can see, if you zoom it over here, as you can see, it's a little bit curved. So again, go to the graph editor, select this graph and move this a little bit over here, select this and move this a little bit over here and make it fit. As you can see, we will get something like that. Then hit page down button 2 times, or let's say 4 times, and again create one keyframe, and in middle of it I'll move this over here. So we'll get this bounciness over here. Let's see how this looks, like that. Now select all the keyframes and move to around, let's say 15 frames. Now select this, press S for scaling option and unlink this option, create one keyframe over here, hit U now, and at this point I'll make it like that and I'll increase it over here, and at this point select the first keyframe, hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V, like that. Now select those keyframes and hit F9, hold Alt and move this thing over here, like that, or you can move those keyframes over here. So you'll get something like this. Yep. Now on 2 seconds I'll hit N because I think this is my looping point. I'll move this work area over here. So as you can see, if I hit play button, we will get this continuous loop. But this is not a proper looping animations to create a loop. Now as you guys know, we have created this grid and this grid. So let's see why I have created this. Now right click, new, and I'll create one null object and select this null one and hit enter, and let's call it as cam controller and hit OK, like that. And now I'll hit Ctrl R again to open this grid, and I'll drop this grid over here for this ball and again this for this one. Now select this cam controller, select both the layers and make it a parent with this cam controller. Select this cam controller, press P for position and create one keyframe. Now at this point, as you can see, we have to animate this thing. Now at this point I'll move this cam controller over here, like that, and now we have to make sure that this is gonna be at the edge of each and every one. But let's see what we have initially. Now as you can see, this stairs is touching this, what we call this grid. So at this point I'll select this null, I'll try to adjust and make sure that this stair is gonna touch this line, and as you can see, this is my ball. Initially, if you see the frame, this is ball is touching this line and this line. So go over here, and if it's not touching, then we have to use this ball, hit U, and make sure that this ball is gonna touch this line like that and select this X position and drag it over here like that, and now go to fit. Now if you see initially, let's see our conditions are done or not. This ball is gonna touch this line, and this stair is gonna touch this line and this line. Now if I see my last keyframe, my conditions are same. This ball is touching this line and this stairs are touching this line. So if I see this animation now, I'll get this kind of looping animation. Now again, if you see, this is out of this composition, so to get rid of that, what we can do, I'll create one null object. I'll select this cam controller and I'll make it a parent with this null2, and I'll select this null2 and I'll move its position over here, because now we have successfully animated this one, so we don't need those things right now. So I'll move them to get rid out of it. If you want to increase the scale, so you can press P for position and you can move it at the top, and you can move it over here also. I'll move this a little bit over here. As you can see, we are getting a little bit glitch over here, so we need to adjust the position of this null like this, or you can increase the scale a little bit and then change the position like this. So if you see this now, we will get this looping bouncing ball animation. Hit Ctrl A to select all of them and make sure that you are hitting this motion blur, so it will add a little bit motion blur in your animation like that. So this is our final animation, and which is in the form of loop. So with the help of that knowledge we have learned in my initial videos, we can collectively use that and we can create some beautiful animations. If you want to learn this kind of animations, I have created a separate playlist on my channel called as Creative Motion Graphics Series. In this playlist, you will find more than 30 plus creative motion graphic tutorials. So link is available in the description, so do check it out now. So as always, here we are in After Effects. We will create a new composition and we will call this composition as our main animation, because this is gonna be our main playground. And in width I will choose 1920, height I am gonna choose, let's say 180, frame rate is 30, and duration I'm gonna choose, let's say 30 seconds only, and background color I'll choose white color, and I'll simply hit OK, and then I'll hit OK. I'll make this into fit. Now in this animation we will learn two types of concept. One is looping animation and then 3D camera animation, etc., and obviously the typographic animation. So we will create another composition and we will call this as side, and width I am gonna choose 1080 and height also 1080, and we will hit OK. Now we will open our calculator and now we will type 1080 divided by 5, which is our 216, sorry. So I'll hit another composition and I'll call this as strip, and over here we are gonna put this 2160 as a height value. So I'll type 216, not 0, sorry, height, and height I mean width is 1080 and height 216, frame rate is 30, and other things are gonna same, and simply hit OK. Then we will choose grid and guide option and we will hit title selection, then press Ctrl Y on keyboard to create a BG. I'll call this as white BG, And color, I'm gonna choose white color and simply hit OK and hit OK and lock this layer. Now we will choose our text tool and we will type whatever text we want. I'll type typography text. Hit Ctrl A to select this text. Go to the character menu and font color, I'm gonna choose black color, and I don't want any stroke, so I'll delete the stroke for now. I'll type something like this, typography. Now select this text, press Ctrl Alt Home to align this anchor point to the center. Go to the Align tab, align it horizontally and then align it vertically. Press S for scaling option and scale it like this. Now I'll select this text and I'll hit Ctrl D and we will change the color into lavender, and I'll hide this. We are not going to animate this layer. Select this text, press P for position, create one keyframe over here and go to around 3 seconds, and with the help of our selection tool, I'll move this thing out of this composition. Make sure to hold shift like that. So as you can see, we will get this kind of animation. I'll move this keyframe a little bit over here. Now go over here, I'll unhide this layer now, and I'll select this text, and now I'm gonna make it parent with the second one. If you're not getting these options, like, you can simply F4 to switch between these modes. Now in parenting and linking, I'll select this first layer and make sure that you are at this keyframe, and then you have to parent this with your second one. Now if you see, we will get something like this. Now all you need to do, alt click on the stopwatch and type loop out expression on it. So if you see, we will get this continuous looping animation. So our strip is now ready. Now there is another thing you need to do. Select your what we call rectangle tool and make sure that you are not gonna select any fill. And for the color, I'm gonna choose black color and simply double click over here, so it will create one strip, and I'll increase the stroke width like that, something like this. Now go to the side option and bring your strip over here. Now select this strip and in align tab, click on the align top. Now hit Ctrl D, move this downwards, and as you can see, it's not proper at the edge, so hold Ctrl to snap it at the edge. Again hit Ctrl D, select this over here, first bring over here and then hold Ctrl to snap it. Again hit Ctrl D, bring it downwards, then hold Ctrl to snap it. Now hit Ctrl D, again move it downwards and then hold Ctrl to snap it. Sorry, like that. If you see, we will get this kind of animations. Now I'll select this second one and the fourth one. I'll right click, I'll go to the time and I'll choose time reverse layers. So we will get this reversible animation. Now I'll select this second one, I'll go to the effect and presets panel and I'll search for tint effect on it. And all you need to do, simply swap this color, so it will change black into white and white into black. Now select this tint effect, hit Ctrl C to copy, select the fourth one and hit Ctrl V to paste it. So if we play now, we will get this kind of animation. Now we will go to our main animation comp. We will hit Ctrl 0 to open our project window and we will simply select this side and we will bring it down. Now press S for scaling option and make it 50, or let's say make it 30, like that. Now select this side, hit Ctrl D to duplicate it and move this over here and then hold Ctrl to snap it at the edge. Now select this one, hit Ctrl D, move this over here and then hold Ctrl to snap it at the edge. Same procedure we will do. We will move this over here and then hit Ctrl to snap it. Sorry. Same, hit Ctrl D, move this over here and then hold Ctrl to snap it. Again we will select this, we will hit Ctrl D, move it downwards and then hold Ctrl to snap it. Now I'll select this one and as you can see, the anchor point of all of them at the center, so we need to move this anchor point. So I'll choose my pen behind tool and I'll move this over here and then hold Ctrl to snap it at the bottom. Select this one hold Control to snap it at the edge like that. Like that. Now as you can see, our anchor points are adjusted. Now we have to name it properly. As you can see, this is the middle one, so I'll hit enter over here and I'll type middle. Select this one, hit enter. Select this one and hit enter, and I'll call this at top. Select this one, hit enter, I'll call this as left. Select this one, hit enter, I'll call it as right. Select this one, hit enter, I'll call it as right 2. Select this one, hit enter, I'll call this at bottom. Now select all the uppermost layers and make it parent with this middle one. Now if you move this, as you can see, we can move all of them. Now there is another thing we need to do. I'll hit Ctrl A to convert these things into 3D. Now as you can see, if I hit R, we will get 3-dimensional rotations. Now over here in view, as you can see, we have so many options, and in camera we have so many options. So in camera I'll choose custom view 1. So we'll get this kind of view. Now we all know that this is the middle one, this is the right one, etc, etc. So I'll hit U again, and then I'll hit R to open the rotation properties of all of them. I'll select this top one, go over here, and on x-axis I'll make it -90. So this top one is -90, so I'll select this one, and we need to make it +90 on x-axis. Now this is the left, so we have to rotate it on y-axis on +90. Because this is +90, so this one is right one, which is on the opposite side, so it should be -90. So I'll make it this -90. Oops, sorry, there is another thing we need to do. We have this right 2 and we need to make it apparent with this right. So I'll select this right one and I'll rotate it on y-axis +90. Oh sorry, -90. Then we will select this right 2 and we will also make it -90 on the y-axis like that. So our cube is almost ready. Now we will go to the active camera like that. Now we will choose grid and guide option, and now we will right click new and one null object. I'll select all of them and I'll make it apparent with this null one. But before that, there is another thing we need to do. Don't make it apparent with anyone. Go to the top view, select this null and convert this null into 3D and move this null at the center of it. Now as you can see, this null is at the center. Now select this middle and make it apparent with this null one. Now instead of top, I'll go to the active camera, and because all our remaining layers are parent with this middle one and this middle is parent with the null one, so if I rotate this null one on any direction, as you can see, our whole cube is rotating. And if you play, as you can see, all the sides are gonna do their respective animations. So our cube is now ready. Now we have to create a separate composition for this cube. So I'll select this null one, I'll increase the size of this cube like that. I'll select all of them and I'll press Ctrl Shift C to pre-compose it, and I'll call this comp as cube, and then I'll hit OK. So this is my cube. I'll enable this option first and I'll convert this into 3D. Now I'll select this cube, I'll press R for rotation. As you can see, if I rotate it, you get something like that. Now I'll select this cube, I'll press S for scaling option and scale it like that, something like this. Now we will go to the top view. I'll move this over here, scale it like that. As you can see, we are on the top view, so we have to duplicate these things. So I'll hit Ctrl D and I'll move this over here. I'll hit Ctrl D, I'll move this over here. I'll hit Ctrl D, move this over here, move this over here, and I'll move this thing over here. So we will get different duplicates, and we will go to the active camera view. Now because we are on the top view, so they are on same axis of X. Now we will move this upward, we'll move this downward, we will change the positions on Y axis also. Move this thing over here like that. Now we will go inside this cube. I'll select this null one, press R for rotation, and we have to rotate it on Y axis only. So I'll click on the stopwatch and I'll type time into 50. So it will rotate this thing on Y axis. So if we see our main animation, I'll instead of full, I'll choose quarter. As you can see, we'll get something like that. Now I'll select all of them, I'll press R for rotation, I'll create one keyframe on each axis, and I'll go to around, let's say 18 seconds, and I'll make 3 rotations on each and every axis. So if we see now, as you can see, we'll get something like that. But this is the rotation is same, so we have some variations. So for that, what we will do, we will move this last keyframes one forward and one backward, so it will create alternate rotations, like one is fast and one is a little bit slow, and one will take a little bit extra time to complete these 3 rotations. So now we will get different speed for each and every rotation. Now I'll select all of them, I'll press S, and I'll increase this scale a little bit like that. If you want, then you can change the position of them like that also, and you can go to the top view, you can move this a little bit backward also. Now if you want, as you can see, we haven't created any keyframe on the position, so because of that, if you go to the top view, if you want to duplicate it, you can duplicate it. All you need to do, hit Ctrl A, hit Ctrl D, bring all of those things at the top, and we will move this thing over here. So as you can see, we have certain things over here also. Now instead of top view, I'll go to the active camera view. As you can see, we have these cubes over here also. Now our all cubicle animations are done. Now we have to animate our camera. So for that, I'll right click new and I'll create one camera, and I'm not gonna change any settings over here, and I'll simply hit OK. Or right click new and create null object. This is going to be our camera controller. If you want to increase the size of cube, you are free to do that. I'll increase a little bit size, so it will complete my whole composition. So I'll select this camera and I'll make it a parent with this null 2. But first of all, you need to convert this into 3D, and then you have to parent this null 2 like that. Now I'll choose a quarter resolution for, but now right now I'm gonna choose full. So I'll select this null 2, I'll hit P, and as you can see, I'll move this over here. I'll create one keyframe over here, and I want this animation to around 8 seconds. So at this point, I'll move this null 2 over here up to this one. So if you see my animation, I'll choose the quarter resolution. We'll get something like this. At this point, I'll hit N. Select this camera, double A to enable these options, or you can simply click on this options also. And in preset, as you can see, we have this 50 mm. If you choose 20 mm, as you can see, we will get a certain things weird. So I'll hit Ctrl Z again, double click on it, and if you change the angle view, as you can see, we are getting this kind of changes. So make sure to choose an appropriate value. I'll choose 39 like that. Now over here, as you know that we have these options like focus, distance, zoom, zoom out, etc. So I'll zoom out a little bit and if you want, then you can enable the depth of field. So but you need to know that it will create a little bit heavy files. So right now I'm gonna show you how to enable depth of field and how to adjust it. So if you enable depth of field, as you can see, we are not seeing anything over here, but if you go to the top view, you will see this extra line over here. Suppose I am enabling this depth of field, as you can see this line disappeared. If I enable this is the line of focus. So if I move this focus thing over here, so it means now the camera will focus on this object, and all the objects beyond this or in front of this are gonna blurish. So if you go to the active camera view, now this thing is focused on this one, but these things are not blurry yet because the aperture value is very less. If I make this 200, as you can see, those things which are on the background are gonna be blurrish. If you can increase the blur value to 200 also, so it will blur a little bit more. So if you see, the objects who are in the front are gonna clear, and objects which are beyond that will look blurrish. Now I'll go to the top view, and those things who are over here, I'll move them a little bit in front like that. I'll move the focus distance over here. Let's see on the active camera view and make this blur value to 100 only. If you see now in a quarter resolution, as you can see, this thing is focused on this one. You can increase the aperture value to 400 also to create more depth of field. It totally depends on you. I'm gonna make it 250 like that. This looks good to me. And if you want, then you can animate this focus distance also. For example, I'm gonna choose quarter resolution now, and I want from 2 seconds. Now I'll create one keyframe on the focus distance, and around 3.5 I'll go to the top view, and I want this thing, I mean my camera should focus on the objects which are over here like this. And I'm gonna choose my active camera view. So as you can see, if I make this full, now these things will focus on these objects which are over here. It will take a little bit time to load this. If you want more details, you can increase the blur level. You can easily see the shift of this focus distance has changed very well. Now this thing will focus on these things. Yep, this looks good to me. Now after that, you can select those keyframe, hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and you can right click keyframe assistance and time reverse. So from this one, it will again focus on the front ones. Now there is another thing you can do to create alternations. You can simply go to the side, right click new, and you can create one adjustment layer, and you can apply tint effect on it. You can swap these colors. So in whole animation you will get this swap of colors, so it will change the entire thing. Or you can choose different colors also, so it will change the color of each and every one. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select this one. Let's make it bluish, and I'll hit OK. I'll hit Ctrl D. I'll hide this one. I'll make this red, and I'll hit Ctrl D. I'll make this black, and I'll swap this. I don't want this thing. So we will now animate these things. The first thing we will do, we will go to 1 second. Now as you can see, we have one adjustment layer with blue and white combination, then second one with red and white combination, and the first one which is over here with black and white, which is our default thing. Now first thing, we will select this one. I'll hit enter and I'll call it as blue, so it will easy to be understand. I'll call this red, and then I'll call this what's called white, or let's say black. Hit OK. Now select this and I'll move this thing over here. Press P for position. I'll create one keyframe over here, and in 2 seconds I'll create another keyframe. Go to the start and I'll move this over here. With the help of snap, I'll snap it at the edge. If you see, we'll get something like this. Now around 2.5, I'll select this red one and I'll move this over here. Press P for position. Select those keyframes. Hit Ctrl C. Select this red one, enable it, and hit Ctrl V. So we'll get something like this. Now after this, I'll select this blue one, and now I'm gonna make it a parent with this red one. So because of that, this blue one will go over here and this red one will appear. Now after that, around let's say 4 seconds, I'll enable this black. I'll move this over here and I'll copy these positions. Hit Ctrl C. I'll select this and I'll hit Ctrl V. And now I'm gonna select this red one and I'm gonna make it a parent with this black one. Now select this black, hit U. So again we will get something like this. Now select all the layers, hit at this point around 5.5, Alt, close bracket, and I'll select all of them and I'll move them around over here 15 frames. So it will animate from here, here, and then here. Now select those keyframes, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph, and with the help of shift I'll move this thing over here and move this thing over here. So now if you see, we will get this animations, which is a certain shift. Now after that, all you need to do, select those things, hit Ctrl D. I'll move this thing over here, and now we will move this things over here. Because our main animation is up to 8 seconds, so we don't need that much things. So in our full, I'll make it quarter, so we will get this alternations. Now if you see that this is all this happening at the same time, but if you want the variations, what you need to do, I'll hit this option. So with the help of this key, as you can see over here, I don't know what it's called, you can maximize this. All you need to do, you need to move this forward, backward, and you have to create the alternations for these compositions like that. So with the help of that, the animation timeline is gonna different for all of them. Now I'll select all of them and I'll move them over here. Now again hit this option. Now if you hit play, you will get this kind of alternations over here. Now there is another thing you need to do. If you think this white color looks quite weird at the background, so there is another, you can simply hit Ctrl Y, and if you want, then you can create a black background also. So if you see now, we will get this kind of effect, and after the final thing, you will get all the animation related to camera, etc. Now right click new and create one adjustment layer and bring this adjustment layer at the top, and you can apply glow effect on it. Increase the glow radius, glow intensity should be 0.5, and glow threshold up to 80. So we will get this kind of typographic animations. So in today's video, we have learned how to create the looping typographic animation in cubicle format. With the help of that, we have summarized our camera techniques and how to manipulate the 3D objects, etc. In my next video, we will learn about the what we call this character explainer animation videos, etc, etc. So that's it for the today's video. We will see you in the next one. If you want to watch more typography tutorials, I have created a separate playlist on my channel called as Typography Tutorials. In this playlist, you will find more than 60 videos related to typographic tutorials. So link is available in the description, so do check it out now and increase your skills in typographic animation. So as always, here we are in Adobe After Effects. I'm going to create this new composition and I'll call this comp as our main animation. Width is 1920, height 180, frame rate 30 and duration is 10 seconds, and background color I'll choose black color and simply hit OK. Then choose grid and guide option and hit title safe action. So first thing we will do, we will create some background elements. So I'll press Ctrl Y on my keyboard to create one solid background and I'll name this layer as BG and I'll choose white color and simply hit OK. Then we will go to the effect and presets panel and we will choose this rectangle tool and we will simply double click on it, so it will automatically create one rectangle with the whole composition size. Select this shape layer, hit enter and let's call this layer as mask and hit OK. Then press S for scaling option and unlink this. Create one keyframe at the start and I'm gonna make it 0 and go to around 1.15 frames or let's say 1 seconds and let's make it 100. Now select both the keyframes and hit F9. Choose this option, link this again. Now then select this keyframes, go to the graph editor, select this graph. By holding shift I'll move this handle over here and by holding shift move this handle over here. We will get something like this. Now select this BG. As you can see, we have mode, track matte and parent and linking. If you hit F4 it will switch, so we need this track matte option and we will choose alpha mask. So if I hit play now, we will get this kind of reveal. Now select this BG, go to the effect and presets panel and search for 4 color gradient. Only type 4 over here, so at the end you will get 4 color gradient in generate menu. Simply double click on it. Now as you can see, we are getting 4 types of colors with coordinates at each and every point. So first thing we need to do, we need to create anchor point keyframes. So as we can see, we have 4 points over here. We will create one keyframe at point 1, another at point 2, point 3 and point 4. Hit U. Then around 1 second, what I'll do, I'll select this, I'll click on this points. So as you can see, we have this 4 anchor points over here which are movable. So as you guys know, at 0 frame I have created each keyframe for each point, and at 1 second what we will do, I'll move this anchor point at this corner, this anchor point at this corner, this one over here and this one over here. Now I'll go to 2 seconds and now I'll move this point over here, this point over here, this point over here and this point over here. Now around 3 seconds, move this point over here, this point over here, this one over here and this one over here. So as you can see, we'll get something like this. Now at 4 seconds, all you need to do, copy the initial keyframe by holding Ctrl C, Ctrl V, like that. Because our comp is 10 seconds long, so I'll select all the keyframes by holding Alt. I'll move them up to 10 seconds like that. So if we hit play now, as you can see, we will get this kind of animations over here. And now then you can change the colors if you want. Choose any one color and choose different versions of each and every color. You can choose darker and lighter versions of colors. I'm going to choose something like this. So if you hit play now, you will get this kind of stuff. Now our background is ready. Now we have to focus on our text animation. So I'll choose my text. Go to the character option. For the font, I'm gonna choose Poppins and I'll choose bold version. I don't want any stroke, so I'll delete the stroke. I'll choose white color over here and I'll type my first text. Let's call this as motion. Select this text, press Ctrl Alt Home to align that anchor point to the center. Go to the Align tab, align it horizontally and then align it vertically. Press S for scaling option and scale it at appropriate size like that. Now At this point I want this thing to be animated, so I'll select this text, I'll move this over here, then I'll go to the animate menu and I'll choose, let's say, opacity, and initial opacity should be 0, so I'll make it 0. Then go to the range selector, create one keyframe at the start and go to around 2 seconds. Let's make it 100. So if you see now, we will get this kind of animations. Now select those keyframes, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph, and by holding shift move this handle over here and this handle over here. So if you see, we will get something like this. Now go to the advanced option and over here you will find this option called random order, and enable that. Instead of odd, choose on. So we will get this random reveal of this text. Now go to the animator one, go to the add and go to the property and select blur and increase the blurriness to 50. So we will get this kind of text reveal. Now after this, press P for position, create one keyframe and go to around 3 seconds and move this thing at the top. Now I'll choose text tool again and I'll type graphics. Select this text, press Ctrl Alt Home to align that anchor point to the center. Go to the align tab, align it horizontally, align it vertically, press S for scaling option and scale it like that. Press V and move this thing over here. Move this downward like that. Go over here and move this graphic text over here. Press P for position, create one keyframe over here, and at this point again create another keyframe. Go over here and I'll move this text upwards like that. Now at this point what I'm gonna do, I'll select this rectangle and I'll create one shape. Press Ctrl Alt Home, select this shape layer, hit enter and let's call this as mask 2. Hit OK. Select this mask 2 and make it a parent with this motion text. Select this graphics and instead of track matte choose alpha matte. Hit U so we can see our keyframes. We will get something like this. Now hit U again, select this motion and graphics, press P for position to reveal those keyframes. Select those keyframes, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph by holding shift. I'll move this thing over here and this thing over here. So if we play this thing now, we will get this kind of animation. If you want, then you can move those keyframes over here and just simply move this thing up to here. Now right click new and create one null object, hit enter and let's call this as text controller and hit OK. Now select this motion and graphics layer and make it apparent with this text controller. Select this text controller, press S for scaling option, scale it to 130. Create one keyframe at this point and go to around this one and let's make it 100. Select those keyframes, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph editor. By holding shift I'll move this handle over here and this handle over here. So we will get this kind of animation. Yep, we will get something like this. Now we will select this motion, graphic, mask and text controller, press Ctrl Shift C and we will call this as text animation and hit OK. Hit Ctrl 0 to open our project window. Select this text animation copy and hit Ctrl D. Bring it over here, press S for scaling option and scale it. Now double click to open this composition. Select this graphic, go to the character menu. I'm gonna delete this fill and I'm gonna select this stroke, and for the stroke width I'll choose 0.1. Same, select this motion text, delete this fill, and for the stroke width I'm choose 0.1. As you can see, we will get this stroke at the background. Select this text animation 2 comp, press T for opacity, and let's make it 20. If you see this animation, we will get something like this. Now select this text animation 2 and move this around to 15 frames, and let's see how does it looks. Yeah, this looks good. Now choose our text tool again and type, I don't want any stroke, I'll choose white color. Type motion over here. Select this text, press Ctrl Alt Home to align that anchor point to the center, and instead of bold version, I'll choose light version. And move this thing over here. Go to the align tab, align it horizontally, hit Ctrl D, bring it down. And hit Ctrl T and type graphics. Select this text, press Ctrl Alt Home, go to the align tab, align it horizontally. Select both the text. Now move them over here, press P for position, create one keyframe, go to 3 seconds, again create another keyframe, go to the start, select this text, move this downwards, select this text, move this upwards, select those keyframes, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph, and by holding shift I'll move these things over here. So we'll get this kind of animation. After that, hit U. Now then I'll select this rectangle tool, and for the color I'll choose something like this. Then by holding shift I'll create one rectangle, press Ctrl Alt Home, select this rectangle, hit Ctrl D, press V for selection tool, move this over here, hit Ctrl D, move this over here, hit Ctrl D, hit Ctrl D, and hit Ctrl D to duplicate it. Select those rectangle, move them like that, and blending mode I'll choose screen, or let's say soft light. So this looks good. Go to the start, press R for rotation, create one keyframe, go to the 10 second, and let's make this first one 1 rotation, this one 2, 1 2 1 2. So if you just see this thing now, we will get something like this. Now select all the layers, go to the start, press S for scaling option, create one keyframe over here and go to around 1 second, again create another keyframe, go to the start, and let's make this 0. Select all the keyframes, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph, and by holding shift move this thing over here, hit page down button one time, Alt, close bracket, right click, keyframe assistance, sequence layers, and hit OK, and move these things over here, and I'll move this to around 15 frames. Hit U, select those layers and bring them over here. So as you can see, this is our simple motion graphic template. Now select this text animation comp, press P for position, and bring this comp over here. At the start, create one keyframe, and around 10 seconds move this comp over here. So we will get a little bit continuous animation of this text like that, and I'll hit N to complete this comp. So as you can see, with the help of simple techniques, we can create this motion graphic template without using any third-party plugins. We are in Adobe Illustrator. I have got this illustration from FreePic. I have provided you the link in the description. So first thing we will do, we will create another Illustrator file. Height width is 1920 by 180. So I'll hit Ctrl A to select all of them, then Ctrl C to copy them, and go to this Illustrator file and press Ctrl V to paste it. And by holding Alt, I'll increase the size. Hold Alt Shift to resize it like that. Now as you can see, we have each and every subject separate, so now we have to move them on the separate layer. So I'll select this book first, I'll hit Ctrl X to cut it. Then from here I'll create a new layer, and then I'll press Ctrl Shift V to paste in place, and I'll hide this. Then I'll select this boy, then I'll hit Ctrl X, new layer, and press Ctrl Shift V. First thing we need to do is that we want each and every subject on the separate layer, so I'll select this line, I'll hit Ctrl X, new layer, press Ctrl Shift V and hide it. Same thing I'll do for this laptop. I'll move this over here on top of our character. Then I'll select these books, hit Ctrl X, create new layer, press Ctrl Shift V and hide it. Now these are some veggie elements, so I'll hit Ctrl X, new layer, and press Ctrl Shift V, and I'll bring them down and I'll hide them. Now this thing is already on the separate layer. Now as you can see, all of our things are on each and every separate layer, so I'll hide these things for now. We will start from the first. As you can see, we have these books, but all of them are in one, so right click and ungroup them. So now as you can see, we can select separately all these books. But what we will do, we will go over here, we will click on this arrow. As you can see, we have 5 groups over here and we want them on the separate layer, so I'll select this layer 2, and over here as you can see, we have this circular option. Then we will click on it, then we will go over here, then I'll choose release to layer sequences and I'll click on it. So as you can see, these groups are now layers. By holding shift, I'll select them and I'll bring them at the top, and I'll delete this extra layer. So now all of them are on the separate layers, and I'll hide them. Now we will see our laptop. We don't need to change anything in laptop, so I'll not gonna change anything. Now then we will have this character. Now we want their hand and head separate, so first thing we will do, right click and ungroup, then again click on it. We need to do ungroup again. Now as you can see, this is a separate selection, so hit Ctrl X and create a new layer, press Ctrl Shift V and double click on this layer 13. I'll call this layer as head. Then select this, right click and again ungroup. Then I'll select this, right click, ungroup. We will do this procedure until we will get this separate selection. So as you can see, we have this glasses, so I'll hit Ctrl X, new layer, press Ctrl Shift V to paste in place, double click on it and type glasses, hit OK, and I'll hide this. Select these eyes. As you can see, all of them are selected, so right click, ungroup, select both of them, press Ctrl X, new layer, press Ctrl Shift V, select these eyebrows, press Ctrl X, create a new layer, press Ctrl Shift V, and with the help of selection tool, I'm gonna select this mouth, so hit Ctrl X, new layer and press Ctrl Shift V, and we will name the respective layers. Just like that. As you can see, all of them are now on the separate layers. Now I want this hand and this book separated, so I'll select this hand, hit Ctrl X, right click, new, press Ctrl Shift V, and I'll call this layer as hand and hit OK, and I'll hide this. I'll select this book, I'll hit Ctrl X, new layer, press Ctrl Shift V, and we'll call this layer as book. Then I'll select this hand, I'll hit Ctrl X, and after this layer 3, I'll select this layer 4, and then I'll create a new layer, so it will come down, and then I'll press Ctrl Shift V and I'll call this as hand 2, and select this layer 3, I'll call this layer as chest. So now all of them are on the separate layer, so I'll hide them. Then we will unreveal. This is just a simple line, so I'll call this thing as line only, and we will hide this. Then this is our bookshelf, so right click, ungroup. As you can see, these are still not separated, so again right click, ungroup. Yep, now we'll go over here. As you can see, all of them are on a separated layer, so click on this icon, then click on this release two layer sequences. By holding shift, I'll select them and bring them at the top. So because of that, all of those things are on separate layer now. But if you see over here that all of them are at this, not at the same layer but at the different layer, even though this is the one book. So to get rid of it, I'll select all those things and I'll hit Ctrl G to group it, and we will delete these extra layers. So now this is the one book only. So I'll hide this thing also now because we are done with that. Then we will have to focus on this one. As you can see, there are so many things in this. Right click, ungroup, and let's see what we have. So as you can see, all of them are separated. So click on this option, then click on this option, then release two layer sequences. By holding shift, select all of them and bring them at the top, and delete this extra layer and unhide these things. Hit Ctrl 0 to fit this thing, and now I'll unhide all of them and I'll save my file. So now all the layers are on the separate layer. Now all we need to do, we need to go to the After Effects and we have to animate it. So I will open After Effects, new composition. I'll call this as main animation, width 1920 by 180 because our Illustrator file format is also same, and frame rate is 30 and duration is 10 seconds, and background color I'll choose white color and hit OK and hit OK. Choose grid and guide option and hit title safe action, and in project window I'll hit Ctrl I to import my Illustrator file. I'll select this untitled one, which is our same Illustrator file as you can see. Then I'll select this file in import as. Instead of footage, I'll use composition, return layers and sizes. So because of that, each and every component will be on the separate layer, and I'll hit import like that. So as you can see, we have this Illustrator file over here. We will bring this in our main animation comp and simply double click. So as you can see, we have this black color at the background. To get rid of it, I'll hit Ctrl K to open our project settings, and instead of black color, I'll choose white color and simply hit OK and hit OK. Now we have to animate each and everything step by step. So I'll select this, what we have, books first. As you can see, this is my books, so I'll select them. I'll press Ctrl Shift C and I'll call this comp as books and hit OK, and we will hide this for now and we'll lock this also. This is a laptop which is a single thing, so we don't need to create a whole composition for that. So for what we will do, I'll select this, I'll hit enter and I'll call this as laptop like that. But this thing is related to with this character, so for that what we'll do, we will select all the layers which are related to this character, like from laptop to hand to, let's see, yeah, and press Ctrl Shift C and we'll call this as character. Oops, double click on it, hit Ctrl key to project settings, composition settings, and I'll delete this line. So this is my character. I'll lock this and I'll hide this. This is just a single line, so we don't need to do anything with that. This is our book, this is our BG wall, so I'll hit enter. I'll call this as BG wall and I'll hide it, and then I'll lock it. Then this is my bookshelf. Again, I'll press Ctrl Shift C and I'll call this as books 2. Lock this and hide this. This is all those things I'll select. I'll press Ctrl Shift C. I'll call this as dream, just like that. Now as you can see, our all things are on separate layers, so we will animate this thing one by one. So we will animate this line first. So I'll select this line, I'll unlink this, I'll create one keyframe over here and I'll go to around 1 second only, and again create another keyframe. Go to the start by pressing J and let's make it 0. Select those keyframes and hit F9 and link this option again. Go to the graph editor, select this graph. By holding shift, I'll move this handle over here and this handle over here. If I select this option and let's see, we will get something like that. So this is our line. Now we need to animate our book. So how we can animate, let's see. Select those books, press P for position, create one keyframe, press S for scale option, create one keyframe, and then press R for rotation and create one keyframe. Now we will do the bouncing animation. So let's see how we can do. First we will animate this scale, so I'll press S for scaling option. As you can see, we have created one scale over here. Go to around 15 frames and again create one keyframe. Go to the start and let's make it 0. Now press P for position. Now go to around 1.15 frames and again I'll create one keyframe. In middle of them I'll move those things at the top. Now this science book is at the top, so I'll select this position keyframe of this science book. I'll hit Ctrl C. I'll select all the composition and I'll hit Ctrl V to copy the position. Go to the start like that. Yep, so now this is my math book which is at the bottom. So now we will go to the start again and I'll select this keyframe, hit Ctrl C, select all the keyframes above at the start and press Ctrl V. So this is gonna be the position of each and every book. Now I'll press R for rotation. As you can see, we have created one keyframe over here. Hit U, go at this point and create one rotation for each and every book. So if you see, we will get something like this, but this is just a normal animation. Now we have to play around with the graph editor. So initially we will play around with the scaling options, so press S only to reveal the scaling options. I mean scaling keyframes. Select those keyframes, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph, and by holding shift I'll move this thing over here, so we'll get this scaling option. Now we will play around with the position, press P, select those keyframes, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this middle one, by holding shift I'll move this over here, select this graph, by holding shift move this over here like that. Now select those at the end position graphs and move this over here, select this one and move this over here. Now if you see, we will get something like that. Now press R for rotation, select those keyframes, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph, by holding shift I'll move this thing over here and this thing over here. So as you can see, we will get something like this. Now as you guys know that this math should be animated first, then this one. Now after this yellow book, this one should be bounce, so I'll move this thing over here, then this English one, and at the last this science one, so move this thing over here. So select this and bring this thing at the top, and let's see, we will get something like this. So hit F4, hit Ctrl A to select all of them, and we will enable this motion blur option, so we will get some motion blur in this animation. Now we will animate this character. So we will do a simple animation. So first thing we need to do, we need to select this head, then press Y to select our pen behind tool, and we will move this anchor point over here, select all, oops, hit enter, and let's call this as mouth. Then select all these things up to the glass and make it parent with this head like that. Now we will lock this glass layer because we need to animate those eyes and mouth. So I'll select this eyes, I'll hit Ctrl D to duplicate it, hit enter, I'll call this as eye mask. Select this eyes and go to the track matte and choose alpha matte. Select this mask, press P for position, create one keyframe, go to around, let's say 15 frames, and again create one keyframe, and in middle of it I'll choose my selection tool and I'll move this thing over here like that, and again I'll create another keyframe, select those keyframes, hit F9, alt click on the stopwatch, type loop out expression on it like that. Now we will select those eyebrows, press P for position, create one keyframe, go few frames forwards, again create another keyframe, go to the start and I'll move this thing over here, go to the end, again create one keyframe, select those keyframes, hit F9, Select this loop out expression, hit Ctrl C to copy, alt click on the stopwatch and hit Ctrl V. So we'll get this kind of looping animation for this one. Now select this mount, press S for scaling option, create one keyframe over here, go few frame forwards and bring down the scale, go few frame forwards and copy the initial frame, press Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Select those keyframe, hit F9, select this loop out expression, hit Ctrl C to copy, alt click on the stopwatch and hit Ctrl V. So if you see this, we will get something like that. Now select this head, press R for rotation, then hit W to choose this rotating tool and I'll rotate it a little bit like this. Create one keyframe, go to 1 second, move this head ahead, go to 2 seconds, copy initial keyframe, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Select those keyframe, hit F9, alt click on the stopwatch and type loop out expression on it. So we'll get this continuous animation. I'll move this to fit. Same thing we will do for this hand. Press Y for pen, selecting pen behind tool, move this anchor point over here, select this book and make it parent with this hand. Select this book and move this anchor point over here. Now select this hand and press R for rotation, hit W and rotate it something like that and create one keyframe, go to 1 second, rotate it like that, go to 2 seconds, hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V, the first keyframe, select those keyframe, hit F9 first, then I'll select this book, rotate it like that, press R for rotation, create one keyframe, move ahead, rotate it like this, go ahead, hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V, the first keyframe, hit F9, alt click on the stopwatch, type loop out expression, hit Ctrl A to select this, hit Ctrl C to copy this, alt click on the stopwatch and hit Ctrl V. And now we will select this book and we will move this layer like that. So we will get this secondary action over here. We don't need to animate the second hand now. So this is our character. So our book animation is done, a character animation is also done. Then we need to animate these books. So for that, what we will do, I'll select this thing, press P for position, create one keyframe, go to 1 second, again create one keyframe, go to the start and I'll move this thing over here, select those keyframe, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph by holding shift, move this over here like that. Now select this book, press Y to select pen behind tool, I'll move this anchor point over here, press R for rotation and I'll rotate it like that, something like this. Zoom in a little bit and move this anchor point at the corner of this book, select this selection tool and move this thing over here. Now let's see how we can animate it with a little bit creativity. I'll select all these books. Now we will press P for position, I'll create one keyframe over here, go to around 1 second maybe and again create another keyframe, go to the start and move those books over here. Then after that again create one keyframe and in middle of it move them over here. Now select those keyframe, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph by holding shift, I'll move this handle over here, select this and move this handle over here. Now we will select this graph, move this handle over here and this handle over here. So if you see, now we will get this kind of bounciness. Now we will select all the keyframes, hold alt and move this things over here like that. Now go few frame forwards and I'll move them over here with the help of open bracket and I'll adjust them like that. Now select this. Now at this point press R for rotation, create one keyframe and now we will make it 0. Select those keyframes, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph by holding shift and move this over here. and move this handle over here like that. So if we see this animation now, we'll get something like this. Or you can simply hit W and rotate it a little bit. So if you see now, our book animation is also done. Now we have this one BG wall, so press P for position, create one keyframe over here, go to 1 second, again create another keyframe, go to the start, and we will bring this wall from here, select those keyframe, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph by holding shift, we'll move this thing over here just like this. Now we have to animate this stream, so for that I'll select this last one, enable this thing, go to the effect and presets and search for one effect called turbulence displace, and I'll click on this evolution tab and type time into 40. So we'll get this bubbly effect over here like that. Now select this bubble, press Y for pen behind tool and move this anchor point over here, press S. Initially I'll make it 0, go to around 1.15 frames and let's make it 100. Select those keyframes, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph by holding shift, move this thing over here like that. Now select all the other elements, go to the effect and presets panel and search for wiggle position and simply double click to apply that effect like. Now press S for scaling option, create one keyframe, go to the 1 second, again create another keyframe, go to the start and let's make it 0. Select all the keyframes, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph and by holding shift I'll move this thing over here. Now hit page down button 2 times, Alt, close bracket, right click, go to the keyframe assistant and sequence layers and hit OK and move this thing like that. So we'll get something like this. Now all the things are done. If you see in our main animation, I'll unhide all of them. We will have this character still here, so press P for position. Create one keyframe, go to 1 second, again create another keyframe, go to the start and bring it down. Select those keyframe, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph by holding shift, move this handle over here. And then we will create one mask with the help of rectangle tool. I'll create this mask, bring it over here, select this character and choose alpha matte. Select this character, hit U again and bring it downwards. So we will get something like this, a simple animation. Now go to the main animation, press S for scaling option. Initially let's make it 90, create one keyframe, around 6 seconds, let's make it 100.